Hey everyone, Josh at the Orchid Den. So last night at our Orchid Society meeting, we were all given a piece of Oncidium sphacelatum, and we are having a contest on how to grow them, who grows them best, who flowers their pieces first. So I wanted to share with everyone how to pot it and treat it. Stay tuned. So this is my piece. I want to go through here and take out any of these little tiny roots here that's not really attached to anything. I've already taken off any kind of rotten back bulbs and other trash from it, but I'm gonna take out all these little tiny whiskery little roots, so that way it doesn't lead to rot later down the road for when I pot it up. Alright, so a trick that I used was I took some tweezers and I just kind of combed it through those roots, and I got a lot of the old roots. So this was a big part of a tray grown plant, and so there had a lot of roots in it. So I used my tweezers to kind of comb through it and get a lot of those old attached roots out of it. So now that I have my plant, I'm going to trim it. I'm going to torch my scissors. I found that holding it this way actually gets both of the parts of the scissors in the flame, and then I can flame them individually to get it really hot. I don't want to burn myself, so I take my hose, I put it to mist, and let it sizzle, baby. So now that I'm making a mess, I'm just gonna trim some of these roots. That way, when I go to pot it, they're not all bunched up, which I kind of want them a little bit bunched up. But you can just see it, I trimmed off the bottom a little bit, and hopefully that will encourage some new root growth. But there we go, nice little flat top. And so now I'm gonna soak mine in some rainwater with Dip and Grow and liquid seaweed. Stay tuned, I'll be back. Okay guys, so I have my rainwater. I've got 1 gallon of rainwater, and I've got my liquid Dip and Grow. You can find this on Amazon. You can find it at your local Ace Hardware. Maybe even Home Depot, Lowe's might sell the smaller bottles, but I get the big bottles because I use it a lot. And then I also use the Maxicrop liquid seaweed. This is good for all of your plants. The Dip and Grow I only use on special occasions. So with the Dip and Grow, I'm only going to use 1 capful per gallon. That's all I need. And with the liquid seaweed, I use 1 ounce per gallon. And this will turn it into a really, really dark color. But it's liquid seaweed, so it's not going to burn any roots or anything. It's very healthy. There's what 1 ounce looks like and everything. So I'll take my little stir stick, mix it all up really good. And if you follow me on my other videos, this is what I call my Revive tea. I've taken many unhealthy plants, back bulbs. This helps stimulate root growth, okay guys? It's got plenty of auxins and natural auxins in the liquid seaweed. The Dip and Grow has indole 3, butyric acid, and NPA. We'll just call it NPA because it's a really hard word to say. But anyways, I'll let my plant sit in here for about 30 minutes and soak it all up, and then I'll be ready to pot. Stay tuned. Alright, so while that's soaking, let's talk about pots. You don't want to pot it in a pot that's too big, because then you'll have all this area around the pot and all the roots in the middle. So you'll have, one, you're wasting potting media because it's eventually going to rot and break down. So you want to tight it, you want a pot that's smaller. So you might have plastic pots, and that's okay. But I'm going to try, I'll take it out soaking just a little bit, just to put it in a pot. See how nice that is? And I have a pot, you can use one with a big hole in the bottom. It doesn't matter that it doesn't have holes on the sides, but I found this kind of tall one with holes on the side, and it's perfect height, so I can get some media down in the bottom of that pot, or even I might put a couple pieces of lava rock in the bottom. So always make sure you're using the right size pot for the right size plant. We'll let that soak again. And so here's one of my Oncidiums. This is Wilsonara Tropic Breeze. This plant does get very big, like Oncidium sphacelatum. But you can see when I take it out of the pot, look at all those roots. See how it's grown around in the pot, and there's virtually nothing in the pot. But they have smaller roots, so I typically keep them more moist. So the bigger the roots, like Cattleyas, Dendrobiums, have a little bit larger roots than these. The Oncidiums like to stay a little moist. They don't like to dry out between waterings like other plants will. So I use something that's a little bit more retentive in the water. Slide that guy back in there. No harm done to it. It's like walking through a jungle in here. Hello. So I'm going to use a water retentive media, and if you don't know what I use for medias, go check out my other video about orchid media and how I mix it. So I'm going to use coconut husk chips. These are just straight coconut chips. I use it with a little bit of charcoal and a little bit of sponge rock. So I mix 2 parts coconut husk chips to 1 part sponge rock and 1 part charcoal. That's what I use. If you don't have coconut husk chips, don't worry about it. You can use regular potting mix with bark in it. And I mix those the same way. The only thing I change out on all of my mixes typically is I either use Hydroton, or I use coconut husk chips, or I'll even use some small lava rock for my seedlings and other water retentive smaller plants and stuff like that. But the sponge rock and the charcoal are always in all of my mixes. It helps aerate, it helps retain a little bit of moisture with the sponge rock, but the charcoal helps filter out any impurities in your water and fertilizer that way. So this is the mix I'm going to use. I'm gonna let that continue to soak, and I'll be back in just a minute and we'll pot it up. Okay guys, so now that I have my pot, I've taken my Oncidium sphacelatum out of its soak. I've let it dry for a little bit just to let those roots soak up any extra excess that's around it. It's been soaking for 30 minutes, so it's really not going to make much difference to let it dry out completely. But I've got a deep pot, and sometimes people will take, here's a piece of cork, and you can break off cork just to raise your plant up in the pot a little bit. You can put some cork in the bottom. You can also use some lava rock and put in the bottom to kind of raise that plant up out of the pot a little bit, but not too much. You don't want it too high. You want it just seated just right. This is a lot of roots, so I'm not going to use any of this. I'm just going to take my potting mix here, okay, kind of mix it up to the side. I will take a couple pieces, throw it in the bottom. You want to situate your plant, because you don't, this is the new growth. This is where all the action's going to be, okay? You don't want it right along the edge of the plant, the pot like this. You want it back a little bit in the center of the pot, or the back bulbs to the edge of the pot here, like that, and then you can start putting your potting mix. I'm going to center mine just because there's a lot of roots here and it's kind of hard to get it right at the edge, but I'm going to leave a little bit of space here because this is where it's going to fill out. And the reason I'm putting it in a small pot that's really snug is because I want all those roots to really get entwined a little bit and stuff. So just press it down in here. Make sure you get some mixed all over, okay? And it doesn't matter if you get big pieces, small pieces, or anything like that. So I will just take it and kind of lift it out a little bit, or kind of bring it at an angle, and then I'll come back on this side and kind of shove some stuff in there. Now, here's another trick that I do. I get a chopstick. It can be stainless steel, it can be a pencil, it can be whatever. But I'll take it and just kind of use it to help pack in. Now, when you do this with other plants, be careful of the roots. You don't want to damage the roots or anything. And a good rule of thumb is if you can hold the pot up by the plant, it's pretty good. Now, you can also, sometimes they won't stick in the pot, depending on the type of media you use. So you can take a pot clip and shove it down in there so it holds the plant in there nice and snug. Alright, so here's how I potted mine. I hope you guys can learn something from this. I'm looking forward to this challenge from the Orchid Society with everyone to see how everyone grows this and grows it well. Also, don't forget to make a label. Alright, I'll make a label and throw it in here, and I'll probably water this every 2 to 3 days until I see roots developing, and then I'll adjust accordingly. Okay guys, so that's how you will pot up your Oncidium sphacelatum. I hope you have learned something. Don't forget to water very, very weekly, once a week, with fertilizer. Help those roots get really established, okay? And if you want to use some kind of supplemental fertilizer like liquid seaweed to help those roots get really, really healthy, promote new root growth, you can use a little bit of liquid seaweed every other week or once a week, depending on your growing and watering conditions. I'll probably squirt some on there every week. Not with my fertilizer though. You want to do your fertilizer regimen separate than any of your supplemental. But if you liked what you've seen today, don't forget to check out my other videos. Hit that that subscription button. Check out my other videos down here. I'll see you next time. Happy growing.